Hello friends, Mike at Guitar Tricks here again. The new series, this time focusing on alternate tunings. Now, sometimes in standard tuning, you've been playing a while, you want to just mix it up and explore some different stuff and experiment. Alternate tunings are really fun to play around with and mess around and come up with some cool ideas, okay? So, one of the first easiest alternate tunings to use is what's known as dropped D, okay? Drop D is very easy to get to. It's taking that low string, which is tuned to E in standard tuning, and tuning it down a full step to D, okay? So, if you've got a clip-on tuner on your headstock, that's the easiest way to go. You can also use harmonics here on the low string, okay? I'm doing the open D string right here, the 4th string, and hitting a harmonic on the 12th fret of the low string, bringing it down, okay? And you'll hear it beat when the frequencies aren't quite right, but when they come together, you'll hear it settle nice. Okay? The first thing you notice is that when you go to that open D chord, it sounds nice and full. So I love jamming with this kind of sound off the D chord, adding a little bit of bluesy notes there, 3rd fret of the low string, adding it onto the chord. And I also get to the G chord by coming up 2 frets to the 5th fret of the low string, curling my finger to mute the A string, and then having the open D, G, and B strings. There you've got an open G chord, okay? So lots of fun to be had there. Another big advantage of using this tuning are the power chords, particularly on the low strings. Now we can fret power chords with just one finger, okay? So it opens up all sorts of ideas, okay? And we're doing it just on the low string, 5th string, 4th string. All sorts of great ideas. Those kind of riffs are really fun to mess around with, okay? Taking it one step further, if I take this one finger power chord up at the 5th fret and add the 7th fret onto the D and G, you end up with this in-between sound, more of a suspended chord sound, which is really cool. This is a staple of 90s rock, was to add in chords like this. So just experimenting around with these shapes is lots of fun. You're going to come up with lots of different ideas. To take this one even a step further, what if we drop the top string, the top high E string down to D? We can open up even a little bit more. Now I'm using the harmonic at the 12th fret of the 4th string and bringing the top string down. There we go. You can check it against that D note, 3rd fret of the B string. And I like to move around this chord shape right here. All of a sudden you'll notice that an open D sounds a little bit different if you fret it the same way. Adding in some cool notes that might spur a nice idea on. Also just taking this D shape here, 2nd fret of the G, 3rd fret of the B. And just moving it around and see how it sounds against the drone of all the open strings. Okay, lots of fun to be had there. I also like taking chord shapes on the D, G, and B string. Let's start on a D, 7th fret. And just all the other strings open. Similar idea, just take that shape and move it around and see what sounds cool. You can do this for any chord shape on the D, G, and B string. So just a few ideas here with a couple of simple alternate tunings, and I hope to catch you on the next one. Continuing on with my alternate tuning lessons here on YouTube. We're into part 2 now and getting into more of what are known as open tunings, okay? And specifically the one I'm going to talk about today is open D. And essentially what open tunings are is tuning your guitar strings to ring out like a chord. So in this case, I've tuned my guitar to an open D chord, a D major chord. So specifically what I've done is dropped from E down to D a full step on the low string. Okay. I've kept the A and D strings the same as standard. I've taken this G string and come down a half step to F sharp. That gives me the third of a D chord, major third of a D major chord. And then I've dropped down the top 2 strings down a full step to A and D respectively. And so now you can play chords with one finger. You've got D on the open strings. I can play a G up at the 5th fret with just one finger. And the A chord up at the 7th fret. Now we can add some little ornamentations to it. What I like to do is play off of this sound. Makes it a little bit easier. You got that rock and roll sound to it. And so off the D chord, what I'm doing there is adding in the 2nd fret of the A string and the 1st fret of the G string. Okay? And then it's just the same shapes. If you're barring down on the 5th fret, then I'm adding the 7th fret of the 5th string and the 6th fret of the 3rd string on there. You could use any combination of this. I could just use up here on the G string. Now I'm adding in the 7th fret of the D string onto this. Okay. Nice little embellishment going on to the 7th fret of the 5th string there. So some really cool ideas for that going on. Another one I like to do is to play off of this open E shape in standard. Okay, already gives a nice complex, rich sounding chord against those open strings. Okay, really cool. So I'm going up against the open, okay? Playing with this shape in the 1st position, then the 3rd position, and then up in the 8th position there, okay? Cool stuff here. You could do similar rock and roll type of ideas with that. Okay? So just a few little ideas there for open D tuning. Another one is it makes it easy to play slide. Okay, so if you want to mess around with the slide, you can be moving chords all around. So, okay, cool little licks here. All right. Another thing I want to mention is that oftentimes you also hear of an open tuning called open E. Okay, and open E tuning turns out to be exactly the same tuning as this, only it's up a full step. Okay, so all of these ideas, all of the same chord shapes work with open E tuning, with open E, but you have to tune up your guitar out of standard tuning to be able to do that. So depending on your string gauge and the type of guitar you're using, that could be a little risky. This is why I favor going to open D for a tuning like that, because I can loosen the strings and get them to come down in pitch a little bit, and still sounds natural to me to be able to do that. But of course you could do it, raise it up to open E tuning and do it that way. Another thing you could do is use the capo. If I have a song that's in E, the key of E, I could just put the capo on the 2nd fret. Now I've got an open E chord against there, and I could use all these shapes. Okay? So just some ideas here to mess around with some alternate tunings, open tunings, and really break out of your rut of playing in standard tuning and experiment with these new things, come up with some cool stuff. All right, so we'll see you in the next one. So in the spirit of what we did in the previous lesson with open D, tuning our open strings to a major chord, we're doing the same thing with G, just using a different chord shape to facilitate this. Okay? So the tuning for this is dropping the low string from E to D, that's a full step down, doing the same thing with the fifth string from A to G, but keeping the standard tuning strings D, G, and B the same, and then dropping down the high string a full step from E to D. Okay, so once again we've got a chord, this time a G major chord with our open strings, okay? And in order to play chords in the key, for example, if we're in the key of G, we need to know where our 4 and 5 chords are, and that's at the 5th fret and the 7th fret. I've got a C chord and a D chord, and I can play it all with one finger. Also, I can ornamentate around this chord shape, adding in, for example, very similar idea to what I did with open D, but it's on a different string set. Now I'm adding the 2nd fret of the D and the 1st fret of the B. Okay. As far as single notes, you can add the 1st fret to the open B, and then the 2nd fret to the open G, and the 2nd fret to the open D. It all sounds great. Of course, you could add all those notes onto your one finger chords. Okay. Some great ideas with that. Also, what I like to do in this particular tuning is use chord shapes on the D and B string and play them against all the other open strings. So I can move this shape, the 2nd fret and the 1st fret of the D and B strings respectively. Slide them up and down. Okay? And then what works really well is going to the 5th fret of both of those strings for the next two, the 5th and the 7th, against all the other open strings. Okay, then go up to your previous shape, so this would be the 9th fret of the D, 8th fret of the B, and then back to the 10th fret for both of these, up to the 12th fret. Okay, so you can put all this together and just come up with different chord progressions, different sounds. And of course there's Keith Richards, who doesn't even use the low string. He has it tuned to open G from the 5th string all the way up, and all sorts of ideas with his. Once again, open G is great for slide because it's all one finger stuff. So you can play some bluesy slide, going to the 3rd fret here. Play some licks off of So hopefully we've got you a few ideas into this great tuning, and try to come up with some nice fun stuff, experiment and have fun. We'll see you on the next one.